Hey guys, welcome to the bonus episode
Round 2.
of the Pot of Greed this week. So, I am once again bathed in sunlight.
Yeah, so if his eyes don't look like they're open, it's because he's being blinded.
Yeah, I can barely see. I can see you if I turn this way, but if I look at my camera or that way, I'm just like, psh.
I mean, I can just see that you are covered in light right now. So,
Yeah,
bear with him, y'all.
Anyway, though, I had a fun, maybe not fun, topic that I thought we could maybe dissect today.
It can't be as bad as some of our topics from this week's pod.
I'm not gonna lie, the main episode, we had to take a little break between recording that and this because I was just kind of dead after that episode.
We didn't need a mental reset.
It was some not like heavy topics, but just topics that I get a little bit hot and bothered over.
Get a little negative, and then it can kill your energy.
This one might get there. Who knows?
We'll find out.
Okay, my question is, who are card games for? Like, who is supposed to play trading card games?
And I'd like to say people.
Right. And
right,
to be
over.
clear for this is not me being like ageist, ableist, anything like that.
What about sexist?
Or that either.
Oh, okay.
Like, I guess the objective truth is anyone can play these card games, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever. But I'm talking more about who do these game companies seem to be targeting more? Who are we seeing when we go to our local card shops and meetups?
What is the target market for trading card games?
And specifically in 2024.
Because, think times have changed, right? When we were children in the 90s, or some of you in the 2000s, things were separated by there are toys for boys, there's toys for girls. There are toys for, 5 to 8, and there's toys from 8 to 12. But now I'm 31.
Yeah.
Am I still in the target market for card games? Did I leave it, or did the target market just kind of grow with me?
You know what's kind of funny is that I do think that there's probably a point, we'll just take Yu-Gi-Oh! As our easy example. I think there's a distinct point where they did decide to just go with the age of the audience. Mm-hmm. A Yu-Gi-Oh! Pack still says, ages 6 and up, right? But it's pretty clear, unless I'm just missing, every card shop location I've been to, I have not found a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old at a card shop in ages. It's interesting though, because when I was a teenager, there were people, I'm 29, and a lot of the people who play card games that I know are around this age, mm-hmm. Early to mid 30s, early to late 20s, whatever. But when I was 15, 16, 17 playing this game, there were people who were plus or minus 10 years at that time.
Right.
But I don't think that there's plus or minus, I don't think there's 12 or 13-year-olds playing so much today. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but it just seems like Yu-Gi-Oh! Has aged up completely, and we've just lost kids and even really teens at card shops. And I worry about that sometimes.
I remember this might have been about 5 or 6 years ago, thinking, because I remember it wasn't 5 or 6 years ago. I was new to card shops, and I remember noting, I was like, man, the Magic players are all just so much older than the average Yu-Gi-Oh! Player. I wonder why Magic players are all so old. Yeah. Did Magic start off as a game that was targeting 30 and 40-year-olds, or did it also just grow into that with its player base? Because I can't.
That's a great question.
I don't know, because the first time I ever played Magic was in middle school, and that was in 2005. I was in middle school, and I was playing. That seems like the appropriate time to be playing a trading card game, especially one as strategic as Magic the Gathering. I'd already been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Up until that point, but there was this kind of narrative that now that you're a big boy, you play Magic. That's where men play, and that's what we want it to be. We want to be men.
Magic has had this reputation, I think, because I had a similar experience when I would go to card shops. I guess I was going to card shops when I was 14, 15 is about when I started. Mm-hmm. The Magic players were oftentimes older. They were seen as kind of the old white guy type of thing. That was kind of the trope, I guess. Not in a bad way, but like that seemed to be what you just expected. The mental image of the Magic player was, you know, in his 30s, in his 40s,
and
you know,
and we're in our teens thinking this.
So I think nowadays it's interesting because I feel like Magic hasn't changed that much in that regard. Like I think that there are people in their like now 40s and 50s who do still play it, but I don't think that it's ever seemed to skew younger in my
I feel like
experience.
When the game started, it had to go skew younger,
It
or
must
maybe,
have.
or maybe
Right?
that's a Japanese card game thing, specifically targeting kids in the 90s.
I think the Japanese card games do that way more. They target younger people way more.
So the anime does have a strong
Kind of like
pull on
preteen,
children.
teen, yeah. It makes me wonder then. So, do you think this has gone into some of the, to bring it back to Yu-Gi-Oh, we often do, like why Konami maybe certain things have or haven't changed in the game? Like I've always kind of felt like this, something I hear a lot, and I say this myself a lot, is like, okay, this game is really daunting and kind of convoluted. Like the rules and the intricacies can be really tough to learn, and so it's a difficult game to approach. Mm-hmm. Konami generally doesn't seem to really be doing anything to change that. And it almost leads me to wonder, like, are they maybe just at a point where it's like, okay, we don't really fucking care if you can or can't learn it. You're supposed to be an adult. Like, we're not, the goal is
You're
not
supposed to be grown.
Yeah, the goal isn't to teach this game to the 6+-year-old because they don't exist today. Like,
right.
There isn't a 6+-year-old trying to learn Yu-Gi-Oh! It's at the youngest, maybe you're like 17 or something, and you're just old enough to pick it up. Like, we don't need to try to uncomplicate the game because we can't get that crowd anymore. We're just here to maintain the crowd of people in their 20s or whatever, people in their early 30s.
I mean, it's not easy. I mean, they did come out with the 2-player starter deck, though.
That's the first thing in years, though, that they've tried to do.
The last time they did a starter deck before that was what? The Arc 5 starter deck? I don't think Reigns had one.
Yeah, well, no, Vrain's got like those Link Strike starter decks and stuff.
did.
But that was like
Link
2017, 2018. I think the last one
still a while ago.
was like 2019. So it had been about 5 years since there's been there's a dog barking in one of the other units. But I don't know. I think that like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Konami just sort of gave up on the idea that kids are trying to learn.
Because, I mean, they would have the data, right? They can look at the sales of starter decks, knowing that, modern players who are in this don't really need to buy starter decks. Oftentimes, starter decks don't have cards we need. So
Right.
whenever you see a starter deck sale, it's likely can be attributed to a newer player. If they saw that those sales were not quite doing it, that their numbers weren't moving.
That's probably why they stopped.
Yeah, they could assume, well, we just don't have a lot of new players. Let's focus on the ones that we have, these old men.
When I think about, do you think
And women, I just want to be clear. So, yeah, I know y'all exist.
Do you think that's any different with other games, like say, like the Bandai games, right? Because it's basically its own ecosystem of card games.
Yeah, it's like one big universe system.
The Bandai extended, cinematic universe or whatever.
I do think
it feels like they're actually. Oh, sorry, you first.
I think Bandai is exactly the same as Yu-Gi-Oh, but we don't notice it because they're always launching new card games, and a new card game is always more beginner friendly than one that's been around for decades. They're constantly launching new games.
Oh, so there's always something that feels
like base
fresh
level
and you can get in at the ground floor. You know what else is true of the Bandai games too, and you can see it like repeatedly happening. Maybe like up until I guess Union Arenas breaks this trend a bit. They are pretty much always targeting millennial like some degree of nostalgia or existing recognizability. Like, okay, Dragon Ball, there's plenty of young people I think now who like Dragon Ball, but also plenty of millennials who love it. And I think with a Dragon Ball card game, their hope is that you'll play it kind of because you loved it, not because it's interesting.
You just reminded me. My younger brother doesn't actually know anything about Dragon Ball. He knows it exists. He has not seen it.
Or that his exposure to it might be through Fortnite, let's say.
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
And to be clear, guys, it's not that I'm not doing my due diligence as an older brother, making sure that he knows about Fortnite. Just that we have a specific family situation where I'm not always around. Because if I was around, he would have watched all of at least the Frieza saga by now.
Yeah, that's actually a whole other thing I have. is people's kind of like, I'll talk about it later maybe. But okay, yeah. So the point is, Dragon Ball is reliant on you know what Dragon Ball is and kind of you're invested in that, and so like you'll play it. I think the same goes for Digimon.
Yeah.
I think to some extent One Piece, although that is technically like still currently airing, so you could argue that's more of a contemporary thing.
But it's important to note that they are targeting millennials, right, with all these properties that they're bringing forth. They, because if they want to target like actual children today, they would make card games about their newest anime that they've licensed.
Yeah.
What they are, I don't know what kids are watching, but they would make those instead of focusing on the old guard.
Yeah,
of what
it feels like
loved.
they're very clearly catering. Because I mean, like when I heard that Gundam game getting announced, I was like, I don't think that this is for kids. I think this is literally a love letter to longtime Gundam heads who've always thought, man, it would be so cool if Gundam had a trading card game. Yeah. And how old is that person? 30.
I mean, it's a little different in Japan. Gundam, I think, has kept up decently well over there as far as with kids. They have been making a lot of Gundam series that skew younger. They don't catch on over here
like
for
the
obvious
Gundam
reasons.
build
Build fighters, build divers. Yeah. They have the shows that skew younger, and I think they've done a decent job in Japan. In the West, not so much.
Yeah, so I think that Bandai definitely is targeting like millennials. They're kind of feeding on your nostalgia. I think Yu-Gi-Oh is kind of just accepted its fate as like the people playing are a certain age. We're not getting kids.
I mean, it feels like
Magic. Obviously, it seems like it's always been the adults' game. I know.
I feel that Magic has gone all in on being like the grown people's game. Like you're supposed to crack open a beer when you play Commander. If you're playing Commander sober, you're doing it wrong.
I mean, real talk. That's what those card shops in Portland were like.
We didn't go to a single dry card shop.
Yeah, every card shop there was like beer on tap.
On tap.
As you like play Commander, you fill up your cup and you. But so now here's the question: the logical follow-up. Is this the right way to be doing it, all these card games? Like just the whole, you target your 30-year-olds and you kind of call it a day. Like, I don't want to say have given up on the younger people, but is that just something that is strictly Pokemon's business and maybe Lorcana's and you just leave that to them and you don't bother even competing on that front?
I think that's completely wrong. I think it's a short-sighted strategy. But if you're not really invested in your card game going for another 30 years, and sure, then you target the old people. People only making it to the average life expectancy, I think, is in like your 80s somewhere right now. We're not going to be here much longer, and honestly, once we hit about like our 60s and 70s, our eyesight's going to be struggling to the point where we won't be able to read these cards.
Not a Yu-Gi-Oh card. No, I think that you're right. I mean, I think that to be clear, I don't know exactly what Konami's like sales market expansion strategy is.
They won't hire us.
Yeah, I don't work
We've
there.
applied. No, we haven't.
Honestly, probably for the best that I don't work there. But so I don't know that they aren't trying to make some efforts towards pulling in younger players. But right now, the impression that I get, we'll talk about that, is that they are kind of happy with these adult whales. Yeah. These people like us and other players who they've been in it for a long time. We have enough disposable income that we can just kind of.
Are we whales because of income or whales because of our diet?
It's whatever you want to believe.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
I don't know. I mean, I think that they know that the average player will buy the packs that they need to buy or buy the singles that they need to buy. Like, we'll bitch and moan about the price, but like people can buy it. And when it comes to like, if it was like kids and teens, it just would not be a prospect. I think that actually sorry, go ahead.
Like times have really changed as far as card buying practices. They've seen probably improvements to their business model when their target market reached an age where people have started buying cases.
Yeah, the case is the norm. That's
just like
crazy to think about.
just one consumer can buy an entire case themselves.
That's not the norm. That's wrong. I don't think the average player is buying a case.
It's not the average, but it's way more than it used to be.
But it's more than it used to be. And I will actually say, let's even bring that down a notch. The box is the norm.
True.
Because when I was young, buying a box was kind of just outside the realm of, you didn't really do that. In fact, a lot of shops didn't even like sell by the box. Like they had a box they were selling you packs out of, but like you could not be like, okay, I want to just purchase a box from the shop. And nowadays, I think just kind of the average player who's maybe like 20s, 30s will be like, oh, I'm gonna if they like the set, I will buy a box of a new set. And in 2010, when I was like 15 or whatever, that wasn't like that. You didn't casually say you wanted to buy a box. Even for some of the older players, it still wasn't a very normal thing.
Heck, I didn't buy my first box of any trading card game until like 2012. And I didn't even do it all the way. It was when Cardfight Vanguard first came out. So that might have been 2012 or 2013. And me and a bunch of buddies, we went in on buying boxes of the newest Cardfight sets, and we were dividing up the cards between ourselves. But I remember feeling like this was the craziest, most insane thing ever.
The biggest experience.
An entire box of cards.
Exactly. It
for
felt like
me,
so much.
Not for me, but for the squad, for the crew.
Yeah, and it just wasn't like that normally.
Like,
the best you get as a kid was like a special edition of Yu-Gi-Oh.
It's like, because then, when we started making videos together and you introduced the concept of doing pack opening videos, and then I'll never forget the first time we opened a box. I could not believe that I could just open up Yu-Gi-Oh pack after Yu-Gi-Oh pack. As kids, you'd open up maybe if you opened up 4 packs at once, that's a good day.
Yeah, that's a huge deal.
That's a good day. But a box, that's insane. I know demand for a Yu-Gi-Oh product must have shot through the roof.
I think Konami was very pleased.
When we all passed that 18,
that threshold where it's no longer a part-time job. It's like, you're getting... No, and I also think that while they're probably seeing some, I don't want to say short-term, or even sustained benefits of kind of the older crowd buying the packs, it still to me does not excuse the pretty clear, evident lack of marketing towards younger people. Because the thing is, while they've got this crowd of millennials or whatever, late Gen Zs and stuff. What happens as those people age out? Like, as these Yu-Gi-Oh players in their early to mid 30s are getting married, having
kids.
I know, right? But
have a career.
They
a ma hunter and a pa hunter.
They just won't have time for Yu-Gi-Oh, and as they kind of drift out, and we've seen people that we know who they have these family lives and they just aren't quite able to really do the Yu-Gi-Oh thing as much. They keep up on the periphery, but then maybe even slowly kind of drift out of that.
As they disappear.
Where are the replacements? That sounds dark. Where are their replacements? I don't think that there are kids and teens flowing in to replace them.
My theory is that they are specifically saving rush duels in the U.S. for when I hit 60. That's when they're going to introduce them. So in 30 years, because once I hit 60, that means I'm assuming the median age of Yu-Gi-Oh player would have followed me for the most part. Once I'm in my...
Oh my God, if they're following you to 60, that's dark. So they're going to have to increase the font size in the cards.
I mean, they're going to have to.
As you lose your vision.
Or when you buy a box, you get a magnifying glass. What's that say?
Or the cards are
Destiny
huge.
Hero.
The cards just have to be big so they can fit.
All the cards are those... what were the bigger but not giant cards?
Yeah, those little oversized ones.
Your whole deck is just that big.
Things.
Oof.
Sorry, but I cut you off. You were saying...
I feel like once I hit 60 and all Yu-Gi-Oh players are in their late 50s, early to mid 60s, they're gonna introduce rush duels, and then it'll be our job to introduce our grandkids or our sisters' kids to the game.
Why did you say sisters' kids?
Because I'm making the joke that Yu-Gi-Oh players can't procreate, but no. I don't mean it, guys.
Our grandkids are our nieces and nephews. Okay, here's something. Do you think that... What do you think is the median age of the average Yu-Gi-Oh player?
Like right now.
Today, like 2024, what is the median age?
Okay. First, I got to break it down into parts. First, I have to choose what I think the youngest Yu-Gi-Oh player is right now.
Yeah.
I think the youngest Yu-Gi-Oh player you're going to find is probably like 15. Like maybe 14, but I think 15.
I think 15 is like sounds like a safe bet.
I think the oldest
Now there are Dragon Duelists.
Are Dragon Duels still happening?
I don't even hear that much about it. We're going to exclude the Dragon Duelists because I feel like it just feels like it's been pushed in this weird corner. So for now, I think 15 is a good.
And then I think like the oldest Yu-Gi-Oh players are approaching their 50s. I think they're in their 40s, getting to their 50s now.
Okay. Well, we know that Jeffrey Leonard, he's like 50 something.
Oh, of course Jeff Leonard is.
But he's like 58 maybe? Or
he's
60,
the Exodia GOAT. He better be the oldest.
But yeah, so I mean so now what do you think the median is?
So I'm going to go ahead and put the median right at, let's say, 27, 28, somewhere around
I'm with you on that. I was going to say the same thing. I think that it's probably...
Or I can be selfish and say 31. I am the average.
I think it's 28 maybe. 27, 28.
Because at first I thought that for a long time I assumed that was in the middle of the pack as far as ages of Yu-Gi-Oh players. But in the last few years, I've met a lot of players who are just slightly younger than me.
Yeah.
And it feels like there's a lot of y'all, just like slightly younger. Not like 5 years younger, but only like 2 or 3 years. So I say that's probably the average.
So then the question is, it's 2024 now. So exactly 2 years from now, do you think that the median will be exactly 2 years higher? Like it will be, we're saying it's like maybe 27-ish right now. Do you think that it will be like 29 in 2 years?
I think it might jump up even higher. Because,
that would take more fall off.
Yeah.
Even more fall off from the low end.
I predict there would be more lower fall off because there are more competing forces for our time and other card games for you to get invested in.
And other like card game adjacent activities that I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I think younger people are more likely to find different things to do with their time than old fogies like us who are just kind of stuck in our ways, and we just yell at the clouds or the Cloudians, whatever you want to call them. Like, we're not going anywhere. If we were, we would have done it already. But as far as the floor of Yu-Gi-Oh is concerned, these are people who have the most options. They can still do other things with their lives and probably will find other things. Because I think they'll watch us, see that Yu-Gi-Oh is a trap, and get out.
When you say a trap?
Like, that it's a trap insofar as, can you quit Yu-Gi-Oh, Paul?
Yeah, like I can't really.
Yeah, I can't either.
It's very difficult.
I think a younger person can see that and be like, maybe I should do something else.
I just thought that you meant by trap, you meant it's expensive, it's hard to learn, something like that.
Any hobby that you get
there.
into and for a long enough time will be a more expensive hobby than it probably needs to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so basically, like, we think that in 2 years, the median age will be at least 2 years older, but really maybe possibly more.
I think it might. I really do think it might be more. Like with Magic, I think Yu-Gi-Oh is just going to start just creeping on up in age until, like, we're our grandkids are like, Grandpa, tell us about Yu-Gi again. Oh, well, Yu-Gi had to duel with this fella named Kaiba. And
well, it's funny because I think that at some point that won't even be the story that we talk about.
Grandpa, tell us about Yuya again.
No, it'll be tell us about Snake Eyes and Tearlaments.
Oh, God.
Because I mean, you think about like a lot of people that are playing now, I don't even sense the same like anime reverence.
That's true. That's gone. I think.
Like it feels like a lot of that.
I mean,
it's not all gone.
It's gone from the active tournament going populace.
Yeah.
Well, for the most part. There's
part.
still like pheromones out there who can compete and still love Yu-Gi-Oh as much as
dying breed though.
Yeah, he might be one of few.
Yeah, dying breed. Yeah, I mean, okay, and then final little thing then. how does Yu-Gi-Oh correct it? Like we've acknowledged that we think that Yu-Gi-Oh needs to be addressing this. What are just the basic steps? Because for me, one of the things that comes to mind is I think we have got to. So there are some societal kind of cultural things that are like out of the control, right? Like generally, card games are not just as popular, I think, culturally for young people as they were in 2004.
Right.
But so that's like kind of outside your control. I think that as a result, card shops in general are less. Like I think that the idea of like a maybe 12-year-old or 11-year-old knowing about a card shop is less likely.
That means your parents were nerds.
Yeah. And you're dragged to the card shop while they played Commander with their beers, and you had to just.
And you play Pokemon in the corner with the other children.
Yeah, but I still think though that card shop leagues and like kind of bring a friend day type stuff still feels crucial. It still feels like I don't think that's necessarily going to get the youngest people in there, but I do think that will at least get more people in there at all.
So I think card games as we know it will have to change completely for the next generation.
Digital, maybe?
Yeah, I think digital, virtual, like whether it has to be like Facebook's metaverse ideas and stuff. I think the way that we engage with card games is not going to work for the kids of today and the kids coming after them.
I think
unless they start to like retro things, and like, hey, look, I'm an old person. Look at this is a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Unless the early 2000s becomes cool to kids. I don't know.
I think that you're right. I mean, like a lot of it's gonna have to be digital. I think that some of it's gonna come down to like, do you, I think affordability is gonna be a big part. Like, we're gonna have to kind of cut out this whole like these secret rares that are like impossible to pull and cost like $1 billion. Like I think that if we want to keep Yu-Gi-Oh in any physical capacity, then shit like that Blue Eye structure is gonna have to get like really stacked. Like you are getting structure decks for $35 or whatever for 3 of them, and like they're coming with all the cards you need, and you can jump in. We've got to kind of melt down some of those barriers to entry for a younger person.
The modern card shop will have to look very different.
Oh, look different. Okay, like in what sense?
Like, one, I don't know if you can be a card shop going into the future.
It's probably got to be.
You'll have to be like a game store, maybe a game lounge, a game cafe.
Yeah.
Serve like
juice.
keto biscuits and
that's right.
What is it called? Where people don't eat gluten free and all that nonsense. Like I'm not trying to talk down the younger generations, but what I'm really talking down on is our practices of just being fine with anything.
The existing kind of 30-plus-year-old guy who goes to the card shop, smokes, doesn't really care how it feels and looks.
Like we like card shops like dungeons, right?
It's the man cave, effectively.
We just need them to be what they are, a place with tables where we can sling our cards, talk shit, have a good time. That's all we need. But that's not really attractive to the younger generations. They don't need caves because caves tend not to have Wi-Fi signals, and they can't have that.
They probably need more like stimuli.
I think more stimulus,
lights, more tech.
Kids, they grow up watching streamers now. Are you telling me you want them to spend 6 hours in a place where they can't get access to YouTube or Twitch?
Yeah.
Like there might need to be more like avenues for streaming. Like it's good. It'll have to look a lot different, and I'm not ready for that. So I hope I'm long gone before this happens. Come on, die at 60.
Turns out you're actually just the person who owns the card shop that's doing all of it. And you have to contend with the whims of the market.
Hey, capitalism's a...
Yeah, well, interesting conversation. I mean, I don't know. This is one where I am interested in hearing people's thoughts on it. I think that a lot of my last little bit on this is I think that a lot of our current Yu-Gi-Oh kind of like problem-solving dilemmas that everybody talks about, like, oh, the game needs to be more this, more that, are actually much more focused on current existing players' concerns being addressed. Like, oh, okay, mulch armies shouldn't be this much money, or like the reprints suck, or whatever, prize support. When in reality, it kind of feels like maybe the effort should be more focused on like new blood, just getting new blood in. Because we're concerned with like the existing player is suffering. You know, we've had our Stockholm syndrome with Konami for decades in some cases, but maybe really we need new victims.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh's blood in, blood out, and right now, I mean, we're not finding a way out, but we're also not getting any new blood in.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, cool.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh card games are for old people, and I'd like to change that soon.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for the bonus episode. I don't know that we really answered the question.
Did we accomplish anything?
But we'd like to hear what you guys have to say about it.
Yeah, let us know. Thank you guys for enabling this podcast and making all of this possible. We appreciate that.
We do appreciate the channel members. It's going to be it then. See you guys in the next bonus one.
Pass turn.